Should be able to hear. We are going to be starting here in about 3 minutes. See if we got any takers. All right, we are watching, we are seeing what's going on here. We are investigating. And we do not have anyone. All right. I see we're starting to have some folks join, which is great. Welcome. I'm James Schlimmer, CEO, founder of efizbo. Thank you for taking the time to make it here. If you want to, feel free. You should be able to use the little chat feature up there. If you have a question, I'll stop because right now it's one-on-one. But essentially, what I want to be able to do is show how the for sale by owner experience with efizbo works. We just launched in the state of Florida. We built something that's amazing. It's designed to guide you from listing all the way to close. And obviously, we want to make sure we can help you get your questions answered. So with that being said, let's take a look here. And again, if you have questions, feel free just to throw them in the chat. No big deal. I'm going to share my screen very quickly here, and you should be able to see my screen in a second, and we'll hop over there. Okay, usually the first question when it comes to for sale by owner, very quickly, and with a platform like efizbo, it's like, why not just pop it on Zillow, take some photos myself and see what happens? Well, that's kind of where the real estate agents will tell you. It's like, hey, for sale by owner, traditionally, folks don't know how to market their property, so you're going to leave money on the table. We fully embrace you selling it on your own. We just want to give you the technology to be able to market your property the correct way and get the highest and best offers, if that makes sense. So, number one, what do we cost? What does efizbo cost? We have two products at efizbo. One is a listing to close, so if you want to list your property, or a contract to close. So you find a buyer yourself, you just need to get under contract and close. So if you come over to efizbo, we want to be very transparent with costs. It's right up here, very easy to see. If you list with us, there's a $425 property inspection fee, which we'll talk about, a $499 3D VR home fee paid at closing. That's when we're doing the 360 tours and taking the photos. And then we're doing 1% is how efizbo makes its money. Now, we conduct the whole transaction for you too, so make sure you stick around and we'll show you exactly how that works, and I'll go very quickly. If you just want to get under contract and close, you can use efizbo to create the contract for free, print it, take it to any title company, closing attorney you want, and have the deal closed. If you're a buyer and you just want to be able to make a free offer to a seller, use efizbo, print it, go wherever you want. If you want efizbo to close the transaction, e-sign the contract, have it integrated, and we actually close the deal for you, that is a $499 fee split equally between the seller and the buyer, paid at closing, plus your standard closing costs, which is title insurance and so forth. So I'm going to show you that in just a second, but let's go and assume here that you want to create a listing, right? And you want to market that listing. How does efizbo help you? Number one, we create the listing for you. We put it on the MLS, which gets it to Zillow, Realtor.com, and so forth. And we create our own online listing that we share and pay to get out there. My passion is to create these immersive listings for buyers that they've never had before. And that's essentially what we're doing. So let me show you here. Usually the first question that a potential seller would have is, what is my property worth? And if you come over to efizbo.com, highlight sell your home easy, click get my property valuation, it's usually the first step in the journey to help you. Now, are we perfect? Absolutely not. Do you know better about what's going on in your neighborhood? Yeah, you may. This is just a baseline for you. And what you'll see here is we give you kind of a real-time estimate powered by Plunk, which is a great partner. Then what we do is give you 10 comparable sales in your neighborhood. We take those 10 comparable sales, we take the average price per square footage of those homes that sold, and we compare that with your square footage, and that's where this valuation at the end comes. Do you have to list it for that price? Absolutely not. You don't have to. It's your call. So right from there, where do you go? I want to make sure you understand how to calculate your closing costs. We have ads out all throughout the state, and we're seeing a lot of traction from real estate agents really saying that, you know, we're misleading with our fees. It's not the case. You can calculate your closing costs right here by clicking calculate closing costs. If you're going to use the listing to close product, hop right in here, put your property address, pick your address, come right over here. I want to sell it for, you know, $500,000. Very easy. Choose your close date. If you don't know, just go out a month. It's fine. If you're paying off a loan, pop that in there. And I'm just making sure there's no questions yet. And put your property taxes, because you may have to give a credit to the buyer at closing, because they'll get the tax bill at the end of the month, end of the year. When you click calculate, right from here, you're going to see up front your closing fees. And I want to point out, because we have almost all the closing fees. You have your mortgage payoff. You've got your property tax prorations. You've got your title search fee with the integrated closing agent. You've got your closing fee with the integrated closing agent. Title insurance premium. These are fees that are part of the transaction anyway at the end. We want you to know about them now. You've got a municipal lien search. Part of what we'll do is once your listing comes in, we'll actually look and see are there open permits, code enforcement violations, water, all things that buyers should want to know about, right? Doc stamps. In Florida, every real estate transaction, there's doc stamps on the deed. There's nothing you can do about it. In order to even record the deed for the transfer, Florida Department of Revenue wants that money. Here is where efizbo makes its money. $4.99 3D VR fee for the home scan, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And then we've got our platform fee, the 1% on the listing to close. We also charge a $75 remote online notarization fee. That's part of the integrated closing agent, how you close, and we'll talk about that in a second. So you can see seller would net $361,000. They saved $24,000 compared to the traditional route with a real estate agent, which is typically 6%. Now, obviously, there's a lot of news on that right now based on the NAR settlement, so we couldn't be doing this at a better time. But these are the fees. And I'm spending some time to focus on this because if your property is not in an association, like an HOA or condo, this is really close to what your numbers will be, as long as you have a good understanding of what your tax bill would look like. So there's really no surprises or anything like that, unless maybe you have something on title that needs to be cleared or remedied. This is really, really accurate, and efizbo is not going to hit you with any surprise fees. So how do you go about listing your property? Come over here. I want to list my home for sale. Get started. Boop. When you go to do that, you're going to just register. I'm going to hop right in here, and you're going to see you're brought to our listing wizard. This is extremely straightforward. What we're trying to do is get as much information as we can here, but the efizbo process is a little bit different, and we're doing this a little bit differently because we want the actual transaction to be smooth and easy once a buyer gets into the fold. So I'm going to go rapid fire here. All you're going to do is you're going to pick your property address. Makes sense. And you're going to come over here, pick house. If it's vacant land, obviously pay land, number of bedrooms, baths, square footage, so forth. Just checking to make sure that there's no questions yet. Perfect. And come over here. Now you click next. We got some tips and best practices. This is where you want to have some information handy. It should only take you about 10 to 15 minutes to go through the listing wizard. But if you live in an association, right, if you have a mortgage on your property, get some of this information before you go through the listing. It'll remember if you have to come back to it, but we're capturing this info to make the transaction much smoother in the long run. So step one, you have to pick when you want your home to be available for open houses. So this is when you want to show the property, what days it's available, and so forth. We'll put this on the MLS as well. But you come right here, you pick the dates, and that will make its way to the efizbo listing when the time comes. You can do this after the listing goes live too, but it's great to be able to do this at least once a week. You want to be able to have the property available. And we want you to think about those buyers that are last minute, that are driving by the house and that want to see it. We will ask you how you want us to handle, because they'll call us and say, I want to see the property. If you are open to that, great. If you want us to abide by the dates you put in here now, absolutely, your call. So you pick your open house dates. Let's come over here. Now, does the property belong to an association? If it's yes, we're going to ask you the name of the association. We're going to say, are there any dues? Are they paid quarterly, monthly? Who's the management company that manages the association, if any? What's their phone number? Why do we want this information? Two reasons. Number one, we want to make sure you get under contract the correct way. You need the necessary disclosures. Number two, if you get a buyer and you're in an association, let's say a condo association, there's documents that have to be delivered to the buyer before they get under contract. And we want to make sure we do all of that correct for you. We've done thousands of transactions in the state of Florida. Our integrated closing agent has. We understand them. I have spent a career doing them in Florida. So I know how the transaction needs to flow. And we want to make sure that we get all the information and everything is done the correct way. So when you go and input the association name, be right about the association name. So spell it correctly. Make sure your dues are correct. Make sure if they're quarterly, monthly, or annually, make sure that information is correct, okay? And it just takes maybe 10 to 15 minutes of a little research beforehand to make sure you get this information correct. Does the buyer need, does the association need to approve the buyer beforehand? We will reach out and get the documentation from the association, the applications and so forth, and make sure that's on the listing for a future buyer, but you got to put this information in the correct way. I'm going to say no just to make it a little bit easy, but I think that makes sense. If you have multiple associations, which in many cases there could be up to 4, sometimes 5, social clubs, golf fees, so forth, just keep adding the associations to make sure that the necessary disclosures ultimately get to the contract. Because again, at efizbo, it's not just a listing. You have a listing, buyers make offers from the listings, you get under contract, and it integrates right to the closing. We have digitized the entire process start to finish. So I'm going to show you all that right now too as we go. So let's come over here and do no, and we'll come over here. Is there a current mortgage or equity line of credit on the property? Just think about this. The integrated closing agent needs to be able to obtain a payoff when eventually we get a buyer. So we're asking you now, if so, what's the mortgage amount? Who's the lender? What's their phone number? That's usually on your monthly statement. And that allows us to be able to obtain that payoff when the time comes. So I'm going to come over here and do no, and we'll make our way. Basic property information. Is there any repair items you want the buyer to be made aware of? You can say yes, you can say no. You'll see here in a little bit what we do differently with a property inspection. Are there personal property items that you want included in the sale or excluded? So do you want the furniture included? Do you want the maybe the flat screen TVs or the patio, the pool furniture? You can choose what you want or what you want to exclude. Is the property subject to a CDD assessment? Is there a current tenant? Standard questions you should know, but we're getting all this information up front. We also want to know, is it a primary residence? Is it a homestead property in Florida? Has there been any name changes, deaths, divorces? These are all title-related things that may affect the property that we want to know up front, so the integrated closing agent can just get what we need up front. Closing makes closing a breeze. Water. How does water get to the property? One, we got to make sure that we get a water bill, eventually a final water bill, make sure that the buyer doesn't inherit an outstanding water balance. Kind of makes sense, but that's why we asked that question. Come over here. Basic information from you, as in who is the seller, what entity type are you, and so forth. We asked your post-closing address because that's what goes on the deed eventually, where it goes. Are you a U.S. citizen? We have to know this because if you're not a U.S. citizen, FIRPTA may apply, and that's really just the IRS wants to make sure they get their money. Those are all questions we can talk about if you have questions, but it is a real thing. If there's multiple sellers, add them here, no problem, and you can go from there. Now, home inspection. During the listing process, this is the only amount of money that we are collecting up front. Every efizbo listing has a trusted third-party property inspection for buyers to review before they make an offer. And being able to do this webinar, we have a chance to say if you think about transactions, they fall apart or renegotiate after the inspection or during the inspection, we're trying to make this as smooth as possible and give buyers the information that they would want to know before they make an offer. It's pretty commonsensical, but right from here, you can see on the day that you want that property inspection to be made available, pick the date, pick the time. A listing cannot go live on efizbo without a property inspection, okay? So you know. So you pick when you want that, you plug in your credit card, If it's 2,000 square feet or under, it's going to be about $400. That money is going right to the inspection company. efizbo doesn't take that or mark it up. We're just making sure that there's a trusted third-party property inspection for buyers to see beforehand, and so far people like them. Now, come over here and you can pick 9 a.m. and we'll move on. Now you schedule your 3D VR home scan. Our own team member is going to come to your house when you schedule, and we urge you to don't schedule at the same time as the property inspector, because the inspector likes to walk through the home and gets in the photos and the 3D scans. But we will send our own team member to your home, and we will actually take the photos. We will create a 3D virtual tour of the property. This is your marketing assets, drone footage, everything. We do them with professionals to make sure everything looks good. This is where most sellers just taking iPhone photos and throwing it on Zillow, this is the ammunition that realtors have to say that you're leaving money on the table. We want a great immersive listing for you. But we also know that most for sale by owner sellers don't know how to navigate the entire process. How do I get under contract? How do we close? And so efizbo is trying to do it all for you. Okay. Now, if there's any questions, use the little chat at the bottom, and I'm happy to jump in and answer them for you. So you come over here, you pick your 3D VR home scan. Remember that $499 is paid at closing, and we go from there. So now you review your listing, and you've got the ability to make any changes, so forth, and go from there. You're going to sign our listing agreement, terms and conditions. You're going to complete my listing. You'll be brought to a screen that looks just like this as soon as you're done. As soon as you're done, you can see your closing costs based on the listing price. Again, that includes title insurance, doc stamps. It's going to be really, really close. You're going to see when your home inspection, 3D tour, title search is being ordered. We're creating the marketing campaign. We're getting ready to come out to your house when you schedule to take the photos. We have a whole van that comes. We're doing this the right way, and we've got great videos from the closing concierge that guide you every step of your journey. It usually takes 3 to 5 days from the time that we scan your property and take the photos to make your listing live. Okay, we haven't gone above 5 days, so usually it's 3 to 5. And that is what we're going for. Now, ultimately what will happen is you will have your listing. This is what it looks like when it's completed. I want you to see here immediately, there's that inspection report right on the right-hand side. So if we were to take a look, click it, it's a property inspection. We want transparency in the transaction. We want a buyer to be able to see, hey, these are the problems with the home. Now, before the listing goes live, as a seller, you have the ability to look at the inspection report and make sure that it's accurate. The big picture here, I'm sure, commonsensical. If there's a hole in your roof and the inspector says there's a hole in your roof, there's a hole in your roof, and it's up to you as the seller. You can get it fixed. There can be a reinspection. They would come back out. It's usually half the fee, and they will come there and only look at the items that you got punch list and fixed if you wanted a perfect, clean inspection. We urge you to factor what the inspection report says into your listing price. So if a buyer was to say anything, you could say, no, that's factored into the listing price. But they have the ability to look. They can see like, oh, there's damaged items that need to be repaired. I mean, it's an inspection report, everything you would expect. We fully understand that normally or traditionally, it was the buyer, as soon as they get under contract, that paid for the inspection. They still have the ability to do all the inspections that they want. However, there's a general property inspection right there for them to look at prior to getting under contract. So it removes that friction back and forth, seller credits, all that stuff you don't have to have with an efizbo transaction. At least that's what we're hoping for. So you come over here, you can see that we've got basic property descriptions. We create all this for you. There's market insights in the neighborhood so folks can see how many days things are on the market, what they're going for, and so forth. There's your photos. All things I would hope you would expect within a listing are all available for you. Any property documents that you have, like association docs, surveys, so forth, will show up here as well. We get all this information from you. We have a full customer support team that will hold your hand all the way through the whole process. Now, our 3D VR tours. This is where it gets pretty cool, because when you click here, you're brought to our home walkthrough studio. So you can see we've got our, and let me just see if I can move this thing right about here. Boop, there we go. Right from here, you could pick a 360 tour. Great. And that will be right here. It's a 360 tour. This is our own technology. And we're showing the property, front door, make your way inside. And we'll do this. This is all part of that $4.99 fee. And it gives them ability to tour the property. What we're also doing on every single efizbo listing is we have a guided 360 tour. So if you come over here and you look on the listing, and you can see right over here, there's the guided 360 tour. We have a virtual property specialist who will highlight key features of your home. What happens is when our scanner comes to the house, he will walk through every room with you and say, what do you love about your kitchen? What do you love about your master bedroom? What do you love about the living room, the patio area? That allows us to be able to create what you'll see right here. And I don't know if you can see, so I'm going to stop sharing and share. Let me make sure I can share sound. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to stop the share and I'm going to share again and see if it allows me to share the sound. It does not. So that's interesting that I want to be able to check settings. Hang on. Background effects video. I'm just checking. Presentation mode. Sorry about this. This is the first time I'm looking at this. All right. You may not be able to hear it, but if you go to the efizbo listing, you'll be able to check it. But this is what it looks like.
Welcome to your future home at 5131 Coralwood Drive. As you step in, to your left, you'll find a chef's haven, a kitchen that's ready to come with me and step into the heart of 5131 Coralwood Drive. And you'll discover a kitchen designed for both culinary enthusiasts and social butter. Easily the best part of this property. Welcome to your personal paradise at 5131 Coralwood Drive.
So what you're seeing there is we've got a virtual property specialist in every single room highlighting the key features and benefits. We create the scripts based off the information that you give us. Every single listing will have that. Every listing has professional photos. Every listing has drone footage as long as the airport allows us. We learned that, by the way. Every listing has a property inspection. We're making sure that you have a professional listing here. Now, we also add your listing to the MLS, which makes its way to Zillow and Realtor.com, so you get that exposure. We put a yard sign. We have a great efizbo yard sign that I'll be able to show you here in just a little bit too. Let me do that. I apologize. I should have had this queued up, and we'll come over here to you. We'll come up over here to you. Let me do this. And so you can see kind of how the process works. Let me do this. And minimize this. Here we go. Almost there. Sorry about this. I'm going to do this. 2 seconds. Almost there. And we're going to do this. We're going to do marketing. We will do these, and we will do here, almost there. And I'm going to show you this right here. It should pop up in about 3, 2, 1. You should be able to see it. So we set up the yard sign for you. It's got a Q code on it, so it gets brought right to the listing. What we're finding is that when our listings hit Zillow or Realtor.com or so forth, they're seeing that the broker is efizbo. They're backtracking to the efizbo listing, so you know. And then ultimately what happens is this. We want to get you a buyer. And when we get you the buyer, let me just make sure that I am still seeing you here. And sorry about this. You advise the buyers that anybody that comes to an open house, or if folks call us, we tell them, we will text them the link to the online listing. And we just had our first closing, which went up in February. From the listing going live to under contract was 2 hours. It closed already. And what they do is buyers make an offer just like so, directly from the efizbo listing. And when they do that, they can come right over here. They will register. They include a proof of funds. They can do an offer price, and that would be, in this case, say $500,000. They pick the close date and come over here, say, okay, making sure there's no questions. Cash or loan, initial deposit amount, and they can immediately see what their cash to close is with their closing costs, right? They can add any additional terms and conditions that they want. For instance, can't buy the property until their current property sells, or they want all the furniture, or they can't close till whenever. Who knows what they can say? They can view the blank contract right from here before they make their offer. And then they can see here that they press the button to make an offer. As soon as they do that, you're texted, you get an email that says you've got an offer. All you're going to do is you would hop into your efizbo dashboard, which is going to be right back here, and you're going to see right in the center section here, it says offers. Right from here, you can view your offer, and then you have the ability to accept it, counter it, decline it. If you counter it, you can enter in what you want. If you want to change the price, you want to change the deposit amount, you want to add any terms and conditions, whatever you may be. If you accept it, what will happen eventually when you counter it, if they go back, the buyer can accept, counter, decline, you guys go back and forth. If anybody has questions or gets stuck, you just call us. I mean, we're watching everything that happens anyway. Eventually what happens is once it's accepted, now you're brought into your closing dashboard. And this is where you will actually kickstart the process as the seller. You will come over here and you will say, hey, well, I got to e-sign the contract. There's instructions right here. And when you click e-sign, it takes all those terms and conditions that were agreed upon, puts them on the contract, sends it to the buyer. The buyer will e-sign the contract. It comes over to you as the seller to e-sign the contract, and then it comes right back into efizbo, directly into the integrated closing agent, ready for everybody to close. And you can see we follow these steps right here on the left. We send the buyer their information, how to make their deposit. It's very easy for them to do it. All the closing documents make their way right to your dashboard. And as a seller, you close 100% online with remote online notarization, so you don't have to come into an office. It's just very much like what you're seeing right here, except the documents are here. It's recorded. It's very professional. It's extremely convenient. So that is essentially the start to finish listing to close. I'm going to show you that if I come back to efizbo, if you are already have a listing somewhere else and you have a buyer and you simply just want to get under contract, or you are a buyer and you're looking for what's the least expensive way for me to make an offer, it's as easy as coming to efizbo, clicking sales contract, and going through, clicking next. We have a wizard. The way the wizard works, you've got the ability to essentially enter the terms of the deal, which are as easy as what's the address of the property you're looking to sell. So I'll show you here, 5131 Coral Wood Drive. Pick your property type. It's a house. We want to close here. And this could be the seller or the buyer that does this, but you pick your date, you pick the amount. How's the buyer going to pay? Cash or loan? What's the deposit? $2,500. And you come right over here and you click next. And you can see the steps. It's going to get the basic seller information, the buyer information. So if you're the seller doing this, you just want the buyer's name, address, and phone, email address, phone number as well. If vice versa, you want to have that information because that's so you get the contract created the right way. We're going to ask for the association information again to make sure that the correct disclosures are part of that contract. And then right from there, you're going to have the ability to review it, print it for free, take it wherever you want. Just prior to that, we will ask you, I'm going to go back here, you'll see right on here, you will see essentially on your dashboard, before you go to print it, which you have the ability to do, we will hit you with one of these. It'll say, would you like to close through efizbo? If you want to close with efizbo, this is what you get. You can e-sign the contract instead of actually printing it and having a wet signature on it. We help with the deposit, and we will navigate the whole entire closing and close it. That's $499 plus your standard closing fees, and you'd say yes. Now you're brought to the closing dashboard. You can e-sign everything. Or you just print it for free. Do whatever you want. So in a nutshell, I know we're 2 minutes over where I want to be. That is essentially efizbo's start to finish. Now, what are some actionable things as a seller, what you can do? You can go to efizbo right now, hover your mouse over Sell Your Home Easy. This is where you can get your property valuation. This is for free. You can get neighborhood insights if you just want to see what's going on in your neighborhood. For instance, how many homes are on the market? How long are they on the market? What's the difference between list price and sale price? You can take a look at the closing costs. You can obviously see we have 2 white papers as well as how to get the highest offer for your home and how to prepare your home for sale, decluttering and cleaning up and staging the home and so forth. So we have that information for you. We're here. Feel free to give us a call or text message at 407-974-6504. My name is James. We've got a great customer service team as well. I've been doing real estate, title insurance, and real estate closings for over 10 years, which is where the birth of efizbo came from. And I'm going to very quickly click this button and see if there's any questions before we hop off here, because I see we still have you on. I appreciate you keeping part of it the whole time, but see if you have any questions. I'm going to invite you to speak if you want. You don't have to, but if you want. Or you can feel free to use the chat feature, which is here too, and say, with hosts and panelists, hello. Do you have any questions? And what's also interesting, as I play around with this new software, I can type polls. Look, I could start a poll. Feel free to answer that as well. If not, thank you for taking the time to attend, and we can call it a day on our first one. I'm just going to check to make sure that there's no questions. And let's see how this goes. All right. Appreciate your time.